Welcome back to Old Charles. Today, we are diving deep into a classic piece of British numismatic history, the Two-Shilling coin from 1949, or as many of you might know at the Florin S. Oh, the big question I get all the time is, what is the 1949 Two-Shilling coin worth? Is it a rare coin? Is it a valuable coin? Should I be checking my change? Well, let me just hold it up here. You can see it. This is a beautiful example right here, and we're going to break down everything you need to know. First, a little bit of history. This coin is part of what collectors call the pre-decimal coinage system, the system the UK used before they switched to pounds and pence in 1971. Now, in that old system, there were 12 pence in a shilling and 20 shillings in a pound. So, this two-shilling piece was 1/10 of a pound. It was a significant coin in everyday life. The 1949 florin is particularly interesting because of its design. This is the famous English or British florin designed by the artist Harold Wilson Parker. You see this stunning depiction of a rose, a thistle, and a shamrock. You have a rose for England, a thistle for Scotland, and a shamrock for Northern Ireland, all symbolically representing the Union, hence its other nickname, the three plants type, or the British issues type. It's a really elegant design on the reverse. And on the obverse, you have the classic portrait of King George VI by Humphrey Paget looking to the left. Let's start with the most common scenario. You find one of these in an old jar of coins your grandparents gave you, or maybe in a box of loose change at a flea market. It's circulated, it's been used, it has wear and tear on the high points of the design. Maybe the details on the plants are a bit soft. Maybe there are some scratches and bag marks on that coin in what we call good or fine condition. That coin has a melt value, but it's made of cupronickel 75 copper and 25 nickel, so there is no precious metal value to speak of. The value is purely numismatic, and in that worn, circulated state, we're talking about a value of maybe 1 to 2 pounds. At most, it's a very common date. But wait, you say, mine looks a bit better than that. Okay. If your coin is in what we call extremely fine condition, meaning it has very little, where it still has a lot of its original luster, maybe it was saved in a drawer for decades, that value starts to go up a bit for an extremely fine example. You might be looking at a value in the range of 5 to 10 pounds. Now, we get to the exciting part, the mint state coins that were never circulated and have been preserved in their original state. A mint state 1949 two-shilling coin now. That's a different story. If you have one that is brilliant, uncirculated with full original mint luster, no contact marks, we're a really pristine example. That coin could be valued in the range of 20 to 40 pounds. And then they're the top tier grades coins graded by professional services like NGC or PCGS. If you have a 1949 florin that has been graded MS66, for example, that value can jump significantly. eBay's seen themselves for over 100 pounds, and for the absolute finest known examples in MS67 condition, you could be looking at values approaching 200 to 250 pounds, maybe even more at the right auction. Why the big range in price for uncirculated coins? Well, even though the 1949 is not considered a key date, it had a substantial mintage of over 22 million coins. Finding them in truly superb gem condition is challenging. Many were released into circulation, and over time they got scratched and worn, so a true mint state gem is always desirable to collectors. A couple of things to look for specifically on this coin. Look at the details on the reverse, the lines on the rose, petals, the details on the thistle, and the patterns on the shamrock leaves on a high-grade coin. These should be sharp and well-defined. Also look for the original cartwheel effect, the way the light, that is a sign of a coin that hasn't been cleaned or harshly handled. And speaking of cleaning, please do not clean your coins. If you find one, aggressive cleaning with polish or even just a rough cloth can drastically reduce the value. Collectors want original surfaces. The year is 1949, a Britain still shrouded in the long shadow of the Second World War. The conflict ended 4 years prior, but the nation was still rebuilding both its cities and its economy. Rationing was still in effect. The landscape was one of austerity and cautious recovery. It was in this climate of a nation catching its breath that the 1949 two-shilling coin, the florin, was struck. This coin is more than just a piece of currency. It is a tangible artifact of a pivotal moment in British history. The coin itself is part of a long numismatic story. The florin was first introduced in 1849 as a step towards decimalization. tenth of a pound, its name harkening back to Renaissance gold coins of Florence, the 1949 issue. However, belongs to a specific and celebrated series. The design is known as the English or British florin, sometimes called the three plants type. It was created by the artist Harold Wilson Parker. The reverse is a masterwork of symbolic unity. It depicts three plants emerging from a single stem: the rose for England, the thistle for Scotland, and the shamrock for Northern Ireland. This was a powerful emblem of the United Kingdom, a visual representation of a nation bound together. The obverse features the dignified and slightly weary portrait of King George VI by Humphrey Paget. This portrait is itself a historical document. It shows a monarch who had led his people through their finest hour and their most trying times. His reign saw the dissolution of the empire and the emergence of the Commonwealth. The 1949 florin is a coin of the George VI era through and through, but its history is also tied to its production. The Royal Mint was operating in a post-war environment. The demand for new coinage was high as the economy stabilized and grew. Over 22 million of these 2 shilling pieces were minted in 1949 alone. This high mintage means the coin was common in everyday life. It was a workhorse of the pre-decimal system, a coin that bought goods in a recovering high street. It paid for bus fares, and it was saved in piggy banks. The history of this coin, however, is not just about its creation. It is about its journey through time. For decades, it's circulated alongside its counterparts, the shilling, the sixpence, the half-crown. It was part of the monetary language every Briton understood. Then in 1971, Britain underwent a monetary revolution. It decimalized the old pound. Shillings and pence were replaced by the new decimal pound, divided into 100 new pence. The florin, with its value of 2 shillings, seamlessly became the new 10 pence piece. It continued to circulate for many years, a relic of the old system, living on in the new. This dual life makes it a fascinating bridge between two Britons, the industrial post-war Britain and the modern decimal Britain today. The 1949 florin is a piece of history you can hold in your hand. Its value is not just in the metal it is made from, which is cupronickel, but in the story it tells. It tells a story of national resilience, of a kingdom united under one crown, of economic recovery, and of eventual change. It is a pocket-sized monument to the reign of George VI and to the Britain he ruled. So when you look at a 1949 2 shilling coin, you are not just looking at an old piece of money. You are looking at a snapshot, a nation at a crossroads, a nation moving from the hardship of war towards an uncertain but hopeful future. That is the profound history embedded in this small silver-looking disc.